If you're a standing seam metal roofing installer, you know there's always flashings and installation details that require 90-degree bends, 180-degree hems, and more. So in today's video, I'm reviewing a kit of WUKO hemming and bending tools to help you fabricate those custom flashings on the job site. What's up guys, welcome to the Metal Roofing channel. I'm Thad Barnette. Today I'm doing a tool review of the WUKO 70th anniversary kit, a selection of some of their most popular hemming and bending tools. In this video, I'm going to talk about price, what you get for your money, pros, cons, use cases, and then we're going to do a demo with a special guest, a standing seam installer locally here in Northeast Ohio, Matt Lane from Metal Construction Solutions and Installations. Let's jump into the kit and talk about, why would you need tools like this? We've got 3 different ones here that can do 90-degree bends and then 180-degree hems. And in standard installation details, think bullnose rakes, head walls, hips, ridges. There's a lot of situations where you're going to need to make those bends and hems in order to lock in panels, complete flashings, and different things like that. So these tools will help you accomplish that on the job site as you work on your project. You're not going to have to go back to your shop to custom fabricate something and drive back and forth to the job site. These can help you achieve that right on site. All right, so let's talk about what's in the kit. Again, this is the 70th anniversary kit. They do have a few different kits with different selections of tools. This particular one comes with the disco bender twist, the mini Uber bender, the 6050, and then the Uber bender, the 6200. And I think the disco bender twist number is 4040. It also comes with a carrying case and a collapsible ruler as well. These 3 bending tools kind of fall right in the mid-range as far as what size hems and bends that you can achieve. And we'll kind of talk about the anatomy of the tools and the specifications in a second. Let's talk pricing first. The kit retails at around $1,300 USD. We're mid-November 2025 here. Individually, these tools would cost $497 for the disco bender twist by itself. The mini Uber bender is $450, and then $510 for the Uber bender. So if you buy them all together, you get a little bit of cost savings plus a handy carrying case for you as well. When you're installing standard standing seam metal roofing details or installation manuals from a manufacturer like Sheffield Metals, you're gonna need to install like bullnose rakes, box end rakes, various flashings that have 90-degree bends, 180-degree hems to lock those panels into place. On flat and curved panels, if curving is something you do as well, these tools will work on both types of applications. Not only that, you're gonna run into situations where you're gonna need to maybe custom fabricate a panel to finish off a run or have a small panel in a certain section next to a chimney. So there's a lot of situations you could find yourself in where you need to custom fabricate some panels or flashings. These tools have bending capabilities between 2 inches all the way up to 8-inch bends, up to 22 gauge steel. So that's right in the sweet spot there. A lot of what standing seam is in the United States is 24 gauge, sometimes 22 gauge on that upper end industrial commercial application. So these can handle all of those different thicknesses. And then lastly, again, this particular kit is for everyday standing seam metal roofing use, both residential and commercial. So we're gonna put some examples together for you so you can actually see how these work in the real world. One more thing I wanted to mention before we talk about the demo is when we're looking at standing seam details and flashing zones like rakes and eaves and other hems and things like that, a lot of those areas homeowners and building owners will see for the lifetime of that roof. So the better that we can make those bends and hems look, the better the finished product will be and the more happier that building owner will be. So these tools really help you create that clean look to finish out your job that you can be proud of. So to help us put the WUKO kit through its paces, we brought in a seasoned metal roofing pro, Matt Lane from Metal Construction Solutions and Installations, over 25 years of experience using tools like this to complete residential and commercial standing seam jobs. Got a ton of experience, so we're gonna learn a lot from him. Let's go into the demo. We'll talk about all 3 of these tools with the help of Matt Lane. Well, thanks for being here, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're talking WUKO tools today. And in your experience, you've used WUKO, similar benders in the past. When would you use a tool like this in your experience?
Most times we have a longer bend that we can't really do with a hand tool. Say we're starting a roof out or an interesting valley situation. We'll use something like this. Not the first tool in our arsenal,
yeah,
but it's something definitely handy to have on the job site.
Yeah, for those longer, like bullnose rake style details, gable,
absolutely,
that kind of thing.
Another place would be, say we're doing a curved metal roof, our starter panel for that.
Okay.
That'd be a good spot to have it as well.
Yeah, that's great to mention. These will work on both flat and curved panels.
Yeah.
All right, first thing I want to mention before we get started is safety. We've got gloves on here because, we're running along the edge of a sharp metal panel. We don't want to cut ourselves. And then as far as the setup goes, we've got 24 gauge steel here. We've got it clamped down because this is super important, right? To keep it clamped.
Yeah, when you're working with stuff like this, especially if you got longer pieces, you want to have that piece so it's not going to slide or slip. You want support under the whole thing. If you're trying to do a 20-foot sheet and you've got a couple sawhorses underneath it, you're really going to struggle with trying to make that bend. You're going to kink the material. It's just going to be difficult to do. Is it doable? Yes, but it's going to be, much better if you can get support underneath that the entire time.
What we're going to take a look at first is the mini Uber bender here. This is the 6050. So this bender can bend up to 22 gauge steel. It's got a throat depth of 3/16 is the smallest bend it'll make, and then it'll go up to 2 inches. So it's just got a single wing nut here, set your depth. Then this is actually the forming roller here. This is where it connects to the bend. It's got supporting rollers and then backstop rollers.
What I like about this, honestly, is how compact it is.
Yeah.
Really easy to keep with you. Doesn't take up a lot of room.
For sure, yeah. And if you don't need anything bigger than a 2-inch bend, this is perfect. And the handle actually screws off as well, and then you can kind of store those separately like that.
Yeah. Well, let's see what we can do.
All right.
Now you do have depth adjustments labeled right on the gauge, so you can just slide that to whatever measurement you want. Set it in. Going to go in 2 hands for stability. One thing with these tools is you want to try not to bite off more than you can chew. It's like I can't go for a 45-degree bend right off the bat. I want to work it slow, get my crease, keep my stability, work it back again. Just work it end to end. The whole idea of, I think, making a metal roof panel with these, you can do it, but it wouldn't be something I would want to do on a job site. And just kind of slowly work it. We try to get too much, it'll force the roller off. One thing I'll do is once I get so far, get the hand underneath there to help hold it down into the bend, because it will track off if you let it, and you'll get extra creases coming up. But if you take your time and make sure you're holding everything in place and everything's clamped, you can get a really, really nice clean bend out of these tools.
So it's super important to keep those backstop rollers on the material, right? You're pushing some downward force.
You're moving into the bend, and as you come up, you're pushing down into the bend also.
Yep.
Another thing that's kind of nice about these tools, the older ones didn't used to have it. There is a slight bevel to this roller, which allows you to go past the 90, which makes up for the memory in the metal. So when you're actually done, you will get a 90 and not an 85-degree bend.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think the specs call out like a 100-degree bend it'll do, but of course with 24 gauge, you've got that spring back.
The memory's going to bring you back. So yeah, you can pretty much count on a 90.
Yep.
And anything past that, you'll use the next tool.
Yeah. All right. So we did like 1.5 inch bend here. So we mentioned using these to fabricate a panel on site or whatever. It might not be something that everybody does, but what about smaller bends that it's smaller than this?
Well, if we need to do something, say we got to make a Z, we'll just, back off of here. We got our handy gauge here again. We'll say set that at 3/4 of an inch. I got to go this way, and we can just run that, in the opposite direction. It's not going to be, the fastest, and maybe with this, let's reposition how this panel is, because now we're going off the edge of our support table. Let's get that up on our support table. That way it carries it better. And sometimes a nice long smooth, and then sometimes a short run on it. And we'll just work our Z into place. There are definitely times where a pair of tongs is better for what you're doing.
Yep.
And then you may need to finish off with the tongs. That is another thing too, you know, getting the very ends, so a pair of tongs in there to finish the ends of the panel off.
Yeah, that's something that I experienced when I was first trying out these tools is, you know, if you're running off the edge of the panel, the support rods here on the ends, they're not supporting it anymore. So you kind of have to be the one to make sure you're in that crease.
Or we'll get a pair of tongs.
Yeah, so that definitely makes more sense. All right, so this is the Uber bender, the 6200, and it will go down to 3/16. Again, same smallest bend that the mini Uber bender will make, same here. And then maximum will go actually up to an 8-inch bend. Again, up to 22 gauge steel on this forming roller here. Again, it's got that bevel that Matt mentioned earlier to take you to just over 90. Support rollers and then backstop rollers. This one actually has 4 backstop rollers, which kind of spread out the pressure that it has on the panel itself.
Again, on those larger bends, especially having support the whole length. Now you're trying to bend a lot more metal too. Like in roll forming, you have to go slower steps. You just can't get 20, 30 degrees out of it in one pass. It's not going to work.
At a time.
2 or 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees, and run it back and forth. And if you've got a long piece of material, 20, 30 feet, you know, you're going to be working that back all the way back and forth. So it's not going to be, you know, 30 seconds you're going to have a bend done. It's going to take a little bit more work and effort than that. But, you know, if you take your time, the final product can turn out really nice.
So that's definitely something that I experienced with the learning curve of these tools is to have patience with it. You know, I mean, standing seam is not something you rush.
No.
And so when you're doing bends like these, take your time, make sure you get that nice finished look. So let's get another piece of material on here and try it out.
Yeah, let's go for it. Cool. Okay, here's something else to mention too, and I see it right here. This is hand cut.
Yes.
Your cutting makes a big difference. If you've got waves in your cut, even, you know, an 1/8 inch in and out, it's going to make a big difference as to what that bend comes to.
Okay.
But if you look down this, you're plus or minus, you know, you can look straight here, you know, you look down at here.
This isn't a great cut, that's for sure.
Well, no, but it's something that I deal with my guys.
Yeah.
You're trying to double cut. You got a 30-foot panel, you're trying to double cut. You have to lock in there and be zoned in on that line and not rush that cut, because the straighter that cut is, the cleaner the bend's gonna be. So we've got a larger piece. The other roller's not big enough to get this. Say you got a short piece of counter flashing, you need to get it against the wall, you're not at the shop, you don't have a break. You know what, if I get this done, you know, we can be done with this part of the project. This one goes a little bit deeper. What did we say? It went up to 8 inches?
Yeah. Yep.
So we'll start with a 4-inch. Rollers on this, to me, it maybe look a little narrow for stability if you're getting out there a little farther. But if you're, you know, clamped down while on the table, I think it's pretty manageable handle.
Okay.
We're gonna, you know, once again, work our roller slowly. Work it toward the ends. And also, you know, as we talked about before, safety, you don't want your hands in a position where you're going to run down this thing and take a knuckle out, because running along your sheet metal like this will cut you pretty deep. You got to be a little ambidextrous sometimes. And sometimes the short little rolls work good. Sometimes you just want to get in here and get that longer structure roll. Once again, if I'm pushing down into it, working slow, I'm not going to run off. If you don't, you're going to run up and up the side and leave a crease in your metal.
Sure.
So there's our stability. We weren't bending, but yeah, let's make sure that we are sitting back down in. And it's just something you always have to constantly pay attention to. And the more you use them, the more skilled you'll get. And there's that same 90-degree bend, just with a longer leg.
Nice.
Like you said, up to 8 inches.
Yeah, and yeah, I can definitely see what you're talking about here, because the cut isn't perfectly straight. It does show up a little bit here.
Yeah, if this cut's gonna go up like this, that's gonna roll the bend up.
Yep.
And it'll change, you know, how that looks in the corner.
Sure. Yeah. No, but I think this looks really good. I think you did a great job with that. And what I am impressed with is it's clean here. There's no scratches, no scuffing, nothing like that.
They do a very good job. Obviously, a tool like this isn't something you want to keep on the job site. Throw in the dirt, dust it off.
Yep.
They come in a pretty nice box. I don't know if you gone over that. They're foam padded and just keep them clean, keep them neat. One thing we did notice on the job, on some of ours, our Allen key screws will come loose and you'll be rolling along and the bearing will loosen up and things will adjust. So you want to just make sure that things stay tight after you run this thing back and forth,
Makes sense, yeah.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
Something's bound to loosen.
And you mentioned as well, these plastic wing nuts here, make sure you don't over tighten it all the time because you'll strip it out.
Yeah, if you keep cranking them, we've stripped them out before.
Yeah, okay.
But for the most part, they're good as long as you don't abuse them.
Sweet. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the disco bender twist. This is to get a 180-degree hem from a 90. This, I think maximum hem it'll do is 1.25 inches, and minimum is 5/16. And it's got kind of this twist mechanic here that allows you to basically attach to the end of a bend without having to have any extra room. You can kind of put it right up on there.
Well, if you're making a panel, Thad, and so you've already got a 90-degree down here, and you've got a 90 here, you can't get it fed in. Standing seam panel, you've got it hemmed. So this, you can take this and you can put it actually right in the middle of your bend where you don't have to feed it from an end.
Yeah.
If you've got blockage at either end.
That makes sense, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna give this a try. We're gonna do a 1-inch hem like at the end of a gable, something like that.
Yeah, so you're gonna run a panel on, cleat it on the gable.
Yep, so that's what we're gonna try. So first, we've got the mini Uber bender here. I'm gonna set it at a 1-inch depth for our 1-inch hem. And then I'm gonna try to do this the way that you instructed here, providing some force this way and this way.
You got this. It's a learning curve, but it's not.
Definitely.
It's not crazy.
And I see what you mean. You definitely, like there, I tracked off a little bit.
Make sure you've got your downward push in there. And maybe, I'm gonna cut you out here. You get 2 hands on this.
Okay.
Get one against your metal, maybe right here, and you can get that feel.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let me try that.
Every tool's a learning curve, but as you said before, standing seam sometimes is more of an art form.
Yeah, for sure. It's a craft, no doubt. Yeah, so at the end there, I didn't do at the same rate as kind of the rest here.
Well, you can't get the ends, which is, it's nice to have a set of tongs.
Yeah, or maybe I'll let you finish this one out.
Another thing too, if you were, say, doing the end of a panel, the other tool we had up here earlier is a little bit wider. And they offer tools that are wider yet. We've got a couple at the shop that has a double set of rollers instead of a single. There's one or 2 or 3. Offers just more stability in the roll. So if you got longer stretches to do, this is great because it's compact. But if you're thinking, hey, I want to run a 20 or 30 foot panel, something with multiple rollers on it is just going to give you more stability. And having just a good long smooth stroke on it. There we go. That would be stage 1 of a quick hem.
Okay, then stage 2, we're gonna come in with the disco bender. So again, this is actually the kind of the knife roller that ends up being where the bend takes place.
Yes.
And then we've got the support rollers in here. So this should slot in like this.
Right, you prop it right down in the middle of where you're working.
Okay.
And this is kind of nice because it kind of auto follows the track. It's already set. you don't have to be as, concerned about pushing into the bend as with, a stage 1, a 90-degree bender, where you can just kind of follow right through with it.
Yeah, this one definitely is a little bit easier to use at first.
And if you try to get too much, you still got to watch you don't try to take too much on it. And if you got longer bends, multiple, disc benders on there, some of the other tools will work a little cleaner for you.
Right. What do you think? Looking okay?
Yeah, I think you're looking pretty clean. Yeah, I would take it right down to its maximum. Yeah, I think that looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty clean, really consistent. You can hook that right on a cleat.
Yeah, and like I said, this one pretty easy to use because this roller here actually keeps it into place.
Yeah.
So you're just providing that pressure this way.
Yeah, just keep the tool stable and work it back and forth.
Yep.
Roll it around, and there you go.
So we kind of talked about pros and cons, while we were doing the demo here. But when you think about the kit overall here, what are your thoughts on the individual tools and as far as pros and cons go?
I mean, they're nice tools. They're nicely built. Like I mentioned before, sometimes you got to make sure that everything stays tight on them. Depending on what you're doing, there are times where the smaller tools are definitely going to be more handy than the larger tools. For our company, I'd rather go with, the tools. I don't remember what tool number they are, but there's 2 of these bending discs. It's a little broader, it's a little wider, because we'll be running, longer stretches, and they're just a little more comfortable to use. But like I said, it's all situational. This is just fine, works for something small. Maybe in a pinch, it's easy to keep with you if that's what you say, hey, you know what, I don't have storage space, that's a nice little tool, I'm gonna get it for when I need it.
Sure.
Versus carrying a big box around with a couple, bigger tools in it.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention that, like you said, these tools kind of sit in the middle of their line. So they've got tons of different options. And so it's important to really check out what's right for you. Because you don't want to end up with something that, you're going to spend that money for and then not end up using.
Yeah, they're not the first tools, we'd buy. If you're starting a company, I don't think I'm going to go out and buy some WUKO tools. They're not cheap. I mean, but they're built well and they're going to last. But they have their place. We have them, we use them, we love them, for what we use them for.
Yep.
And for other things, sometimes if it's a short, narrow bend, sometimes it's just better to have a hand bender or a set of tongs. But where these shine, they shine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, all in all, there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve with these tools.
Yes.
But, for the right application, they make a lot of sense.
They do, they certainly do.
Yeah, especially in that standing seam world where you're trying to make those bends or hems, the custom flashings, kind of finishing off a trim piece. Definitely, I see a place for these tools in the market.
Oh, I certainly do too as well, Thad.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming in. And
thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. If you're interested in the 70th anniversary WUKO kit or any of their bending, hemming, or other standing seam metal roofing tools, visit WUKOinc.com. Big shout out to them for setting us the anniversary kit to check out today. I also want to shout out Matt Lane from Metal Construction Solutions and Installations. Always great to see him and hear his expertise. If you've got any questions or other tools you'd like me to review, comment down below with those. Otherwise, subscribe here to the Metal Roofing channel. I'm Thad Barnette. We'll catch you next time.